All right, so we're going to talk about setting up your JTech Pro Series machine uh, with Lightburn here. And so we're going to first download Lightburn. You can find it on the Lightburn page here, just right here. There's a Windows 64-bit, 32, and then the Mac and Linux versions too. So once we download and install, just download it, save this this file, and then install it. We will then have the Lightburn ready to go. All right, so now that we've got Lightburn installed, we basically need to start Lightburn. So it starts up, and if you don't have any devices listed already, then it's going to pop up this device box, this dialog box here. If you do have devices already, then you can just click on this device button down here, and then we'll pop up this box. So let's try first to find the laser. A lot of times this won't work, but it's going to scan and try to see if it can find it. It will work if you don't have any devices there. So in this case, it found a GRBL 800 by 800 on COM4. COM4s are always going to be different depending on your machine. So I'm just going to click on the Add Device here. It is not an XCarve or Shapeoko. It's something other. We're going to not auto home. I don't like to auto home on startup. The new version of Lightburn, the 9.24, requires you to either home or unlock it. I personally just like to unlock it, but if you like to auto home on every startup, you can. Otherwise, you can just press home when you want to. And we're going to add this, and it's going to make it say GRBL. If you want to edit it, you can to change the name if you want. I'm just going to change it to JTech Pro Series, and just go next and finish it. So you can see that it renamed it. For people who didn't have the Find My Laser, we can also just go create manually. You're going to choose GRBL, serial. Again, you can name it whatever you want. And then the length and width is going to be 800 by 800 millimeters. I'm going to turn off that auto home, press next, and press finish. So we have our machine now. It's found. It looks like it's connected. And we're going to go from there to the next step. All right, now that we got the device set up, we're going to go up here to the general settings, and I like to work in inches per minute. I'm going to change it to inches per minute. If you're metric, you can keep it on millimeters. I just prefer inches, but that's where you're going to change it here in the units. On the better for diode, inches per minute is what we're going with. On the screwdriver and wrench up here, the device settings, we are going to enable the laser fire button. That's important. And everything else on here looks good. The default value for S value max is 1,000, which is what it should be. And our height and width are now 31.5 inches. That's what 800 millimeters is, so that we're good there. And so press OK, and that saves it. And then we are going to restart Lightburn because the fire button's not here. So in order to get the fire button to show up, you need to restart Lightburn. So let's do that real quick. And now you can see that the fire button's right here in the corner. Now after this, we're going to make sure and get all the positioning working and homing. All right, now we have the device set up. We're going to do the machine positioning, make sure everything's all good there. So go to the Move tab. You notice you have the fire button here now, which is great. The thing is that if you have if you want to not home the machine, we need to go to the console here, and we're going to make a button here that says unlock. If you don't want to home the machine, you have to type in $X, and I'm just making a macro here. You can right click on that macro, 0, and change it to unlock. And if we unlock it, then that means you can move the machine around, so you can you don't necessarily have to home. The first thing we need to do is actually make sure that the machine is moving the correct direction. So if you click on the right, on the X here, and you move it to the right, looking from the front, it should move to the right, and X left should move to the left. Y should move away from you when you press the top and move towards you. And similar to the Z stage, when you press down, it should go down. When you press up, it should go up. If these are not going in the right direction, then that means one of your wires is is turned the wrong way. So turn off your machine and go back to your GRBL board and flip over the motor cable on the offending one. If you have your X going the wrong way, then just flip it over and it will then go the correct way. Same thing with the Z, you know, if it's backwards, just flip the Z one. You want the Z to be going up or down depending on which way you have it set, and X's need to be going the correct way as well. I want to set the home position to be our 0 location. Sometimes these numbers are going to be all funky up here. If they are, here's what we need to do. I like to make a macro. I'm going to right click on macro 1 and I'm going to call it home, and in the home sequence I'm going to do the $H, and then I'm going to do something else that's going to basically tell Lightburn that the machine coordinates that it's at the home position are 0. So I'm going to go G92, X0, Y0, Z0. So that's going to be my 0 position. The Z one's a little bit interesting. If you want to set your Z to a different level than the home, then you can change that here. But I'm just going to say that the top of the Z stage is R0. So if I press this, I can go over to here and press home, but in the first time I'm going to do it, I'm going to press it here and it's going to home, and you can see it homing. It's going to move over to the front left, it's going to hit both of the switches, and then it's going to then set that as the home position. So now if I go up to here and say get position, you're going to see it's 0, 0, 0. So that's kind of cool. It's just a way to get your laser machine to be zeroed so this grid is actually correct. That allows you to do things like use the pin tool, the pin drop tool, to move different positions. So I just moved it over to that position over there, and you can see it moves just fine based on where it is on the grid, because you have this this set up to be 0. So if I say to go to 0, 0, it's going to go back to my 0, 0 position. Kind of fun ways of doing that, just to make sure everything on the grid is correct. So if your 0, 0 at home is set, then you're good to go for the next thing. All right, so now we're going to do a test run here. Let's start by just doing a quick hello here. On the text tool, we're going to make it a little bit smaller. Change that to maybe 1.5 inches. And let's go to the cut layer tab, and let's go and double click on the speed and power, and let's do a fill and line. There's 3 options here. There's fill, there's line. There's actually 4 options. Line just is an outline. That's good for cutting. Fill is what it says is fill. So I like fill and line because it goes back and forth and then it does a line afterwards. The offset fill is basically just a little inside the letters. So I'm going to do fill and line. We're going to do our speed at 80 and 80 just to start. This is a nice starting point. It gives a decent burn. And then let's change our line interval. Your line interval you want to make be large as possible without leaving little white spaces between it. It's like kind of mowing your lawn. You want to have your back and forth be right on top of each other. So for this laser, it usually works out 0.006 is pretty good. The line after fill, we're going to do 80 and 80 again, and press OK. Let's see how that's going to look on the preview tab. Yeah, on the preview tab, we can go click up on the TV up there, and you can see that it's going to take about 3 minutes to go through the whole thing. It's just going to go and go across and raster the whole thing, and then at the very end, it's going to do an outline. This is a good tool to see different changes and how it affects your time. Since we calibrated the machine in the beginning by pressing this additional settings up here and read from controller, this is going to be an actual representation of how fast it's going to be. So this should take 3 minutes and 31 seconds. Now you notice that there's a green dot on the bottom left. That's because we have our start from here as current position. Current position is just going to start wherever the laser's at. It doesn't matter where you have it on this grid. It's going to start just right where it's at. So you can have your job origin be in the center or top right. We're going to just choose bottom left for right now, and we're going to go and place our wood. Okay, so let's move let's go and move the machine just a little bit so I can get the wood in here. So I'm going to change my distance to about 1 inch. I'm just going to move it a little bit
to where I want. Maybe I'll actually do a pin drop. If you want to, you can like line it over here and say drop a pin and move it a little bit easier. Just to move it kind of out of the way, I'm going to move it over there. If you wanted to do absolute positioning, you could and drop your pin near your thing, and it will go over to there. On this one, we're going to just position our wood. So we're going to take some wood. And we're going to move our Z-axis down. So we're going to do that. We're going to take our focusing tool here and put it underneath and go down and Z a little bit more. I'm going to change it to 0.1 as we get a little bit closer. Now I'm going to change it to 0.01. And you want to get it just to be about 1/8 of an inch from it, so you can kind of just make it so that it just barely touches, and then move it back up so you know you're clear. So that's just about 1/8 of an inch above the work surface there. You can see that we're using current position, so it's going to start, and it's just going to start from that exact position there and do a hello. We're going to test fire the laser and see what we get in terms of to line up our spot. So let's try maybe 1% and see if it fires at 1%. And it doesn't, so we're going to fire it maybe at 2%. Oh, yeah, fired at 2%. Let's see if it can go a little bit less than that. So it looks like this one's firing at just about 1.75. So that's going to be our low fire position. So you can line it up and you can see that it's going right there. So next thing we're going to do is, if we like where it's at, we're just going to frame it. We can now frame where it's at. If you hold down the shift key and you press this frame button, you're going to see it's going to outline exactly where you're at. That's really good for lining up and seeing exactly where you need it to be before you actually start something. If you want to do a reference, like if you actually wanted to draw the board that I have on here, you can, and just make that the reference instead. I'm going to make that and turn that into a different layer. So you can choose a different layer. So I just chose this blue layer down here for it. And now you go to the cut tab layer and you see there's another layer here. So if this is my board and that's my hello, you can reference that. I'm just going to turn the output off, and it's a kind of a cool little trick. So now we can see, we're going to go back and see where this is. So if I press the frame button, it's actually going to take that reference off that bottom. So it would be as if we moved it more like this. I didn't measure exactly what that would be, but you can see it's going to take that and move it from that bottom corner instead, because it's referencing from here. We're just going to, for this one, we're just going to basically do current position. So we're going to just go back to that current position, and I'm just going to put it somewhere in the middle. For this test, it doesn't really matter too much. We're going to get some more stuff later on some advanced techniques like that in later. But so now that if you really like where it's at, you can press start and we will get going. Okay, so now it just finished. We can move it out of the way a little bit, just so we can get to it. And we can look and see that it engraved a pretty nice hello. In this wood, it's a little deep and it's nice burned nice and crisp. So I guess now in the next step is just to learn Lightburn a little bit more and start engraving. If you have any questions, give us a shout at JTech Photonics. You can email us at customerservice@jtechphotonics.com, or you can give us a call and we'll try to answer your questions for you. Thanks.